Hello everybody. Let's discuss two very important requirement management tools, Doors and Polarian. These Doors and Polarian are just tools. Okay, I'm not undermining them, but they are tools just like Excel or MS Word or PPT. These things can be mastered very easily if you practice them for a reasonable amount of time. These are not exactly important. Okay, it's not exactly difficult. Okay, especially Doors or Polarian. These are more and more used by many OEMs as a part of their requirement management. We will discuss these things elaborately. In the context of ADAS, managing requirements is very critical due to complexity, safety, critical nature, and regulatory compliance. By now, you must have got a reasonable picture how complex is developing an ADAS system. Developing an ADAS functionality is critical due to complexity, due to safety regulations, due to regulatory regulations, and due to the various working conditions of the ADAS functionalities. Okay, so to procure the requirements and to manage the requirements, majorly two tools are used. One is Polarian and other is Doors. Now this is one interface of a Polarian which I kept in front of you. I'm not sure how much it depicts it, but the usual interface looks like this. Now let me make it clear, I'm not going to teach you these tools. I'm just going to give you an overview of these two tools with the help of which requirements can be easily managed. Let's first of all talk about this DOORS. DOORS is the acronym for Dynamic Object Oriented Requirement System. Alright, so this is a very commonly used requirement management tool and it is developed by IBM. Developed by IBM, DOORS is a legacy requirement management tool widely used in automotive, aerospace and defense. But right now we are discussing about ADAS, so let's limit our discussion only to the automotive. The main salient feature of this Doors tool is it supports the traceability, it supports the version control, and it also supports the compliance with the safety standards. In case you want to procure some safety standards based on ISO 26262, even those compliance standards are well supported with this tool. These Doors is available in two versions. One is Doors Classic, Doors Classic, and other is Doors Next. But most of the OEMs nowadays, at least to the best of my knowledge, are using only Doors Classic because this is sufficient for configuring the ADAS requirements. Now, what are the key features that make this tool so useful for ADAS? First is it gives a very clear-cut hierarchical requirement structuring. It clearly organizes ADAS requirements. This word is very important. It organizes ADAS requirements in a very structured manner. It supports the linking between the system, and why is this linking so important? To ensure the traceability. Alright, next comes the traceability and the impact analysis. So this clearly ensures a bidirectional traceability from high level system requirements down to the test cases. Right from high level requirement in the V model, all of you would have seen how the high level requirements are slowly cascaded to the lower level requirements, and from the lower level requirements how test cases are developed, and how from the test cases actual testing happens. So this bidirectional traceability happens from the high level requirements to the test cases, and also this is critical for ISO 26262. Baselining and version control tracks changes over time, crucial for audits and regulatory compliance. Now all of you definitely know, whether you are working in strictly IC engine or strictly chassis, every component in an automobile has its own regulatory compliance. For example, if you are working in IC engine, it has its own emission compliance. Likewise, even ADAS has its own regulatory compliance, and it must be met. And those requirements are clearly accumulated or accrued with the help of this Doors tool. And moreover, this Doors tool is very easily integratable with other tools like Simulink, MATLAB, Dassault Systems and AutoSAR tools. This is one of the very important salient feature of this. Now there is one more tool called ALM, which means Application Lifecycle Management. This is also a requirements tool which can be very easily integrated into Doors. Okay, so this is these are all the salient features of this doors, which makes it so usable and so so much in demand by the OEMs. Now, what is its main challenge in ADAS context? Especially this Doors Classic, it is not exactly difficult, but you need to put some effort to know about all the various features. It is like, for example, you are learning a language or a modeling tool like ProE or CATIA. It is a very vast topic. It is not exactly difficult, but it is very vast. Likewise, this Doors Classic also has umpteen number of features, which makes its learning curve very steep and limited real-time collaboration compared with the modern tools. This is also one of the requirement, but most this require or this is also one of the limitation, but mostly this limitation is overcome. Okay, so don't I strongly recommend, don't worry about this particular limitation. And of course, this high cost of ownership, because it is manufactured or it is prepared by doors sorry, by IBM. This is a very high cost tool, and owning a license is very expensive. That is the reason many OEMs, what they do is, if they have a branch in France or Germany, 2 to 3 countries own one license. So depending upon the time, one user can use in one country, and later another user can use in another country. Okay, the same license can be sometimes opportuned or appropriated between 2 to 3 countries because of the high cost of ownership. Now next talk about the Polarian. This Siemens Polarian is also a very unpopular, very much used requirements management tool, and this is majorly web based. This is the most important difference between Polarian and Doors, and I will clearly explain to you the differences between Polarian and Doors in the coming slides. This is majorly web based, and moreover, what makes this particular so much in demand or so much lovable tool is, it is very much designed for agile DevOps and traditional V model. This is perfectly compatible for working in agile environment, and also while developing a system through traditional V model. And also it has strong integration with Siemens tools like Team Center and simulation tool. I am sure everybody knows this Team Center. This is a very popular system management tool, and this particular tool is perfectly compatible and integratable with Siemens Polarian. Now what are the key features? What are the key features of the ADAS or for the ADAS, which makes it so much popular for ADAS development? First is, it is real-time collaboration. It is cloud-based, enabling global teams to work simultaneously. Now this is one major difference between Doors and Polarian. In Polarian, for one license only one person can work, but when it comes to Polarian, for a given license many workers can work simultaneously because it is cloud based. And this is again, it supports the workflows, alongside traditional requirements management. End-to-end traceability, links requirements, test defect in single environment. These are slightly common with the Doors also. In Doors also, end-to-end traceability is there. Polarian also, it has end-to-end traceability. And also integration with ADAS development tools. Now again, this is perfectly integratable or perfectly compatible to work with Jira, Simulink, and also continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines for ADAS software updates. It perfectly supports CI and CD pipelines for software updates. Now, there are another couple of salient features or important features of Polarian which makes it such an attractive tool. One is live document generation. As and when you are working on Polarian, it automatically generates compliance documentation. Now, this is one very important advantage of working with Polarian. And it also reduces manual effort in creating traceability reports. This is something which I am telling out of my experience. Many people who worked on Polarian and Doors, they clearly say that there is Polarian definitely has an edge when it comes to developing the traceability reports. Okay, now tomorrow when you get a job in OEM, irrespective of whether you work on Polarian or Doors, remember that Polarian has a slight edge when it comes to Doors as far as traceability is concerned. Okay, next comes the flexible workflows and customization, adaptable for different ADAS development methodologies. Now, this is a very important advantage. This is what makes it such an important prospect. It is perfectly adaptable for these methodologies, whether agile methodology or waterfall methodology or hybrid methodology. All these are perfectly compatible with this Polarian. Now, what are the challenges in ADAS context? Okay, one important context is because Polarian is slightly modern when compared to doors. Some people opine that it is slightly less mature. This is a, how to say, general opinion, but my personal experience is I have spoken with both people worked on doors and Polarian. Many people say that working on Polarian is more user friendly. But anyway, this is also one opinion which prevails. All right, next it is dependent on Siemens ecosystem for full potential. Siemens ecosystem like Siemens Team Center or any other Siemens tools, it is very much dependent on those Siemens tools. And next is performance issues with large requirement sets. Some people complain that there are some performance issues with large requirement sets. At least in my opinion, I never came across it, but this is one of the common opinion. This is a very general opinion that there are some performance issues when you deal with large requirement sets. When it comes to large requirement sets, doors is more compatible or doors is more attractive. That's the general opinion. All right. Now, I request all of you to pause the video and understand the differences between IBM doors and Siemens Polarian. Now, this fully web-based or fully cloud-based is one of the biggest advantages of Polarian. Okay, it is clearly mentioned here, real-time and cloud-based. Okay, so and well, like every tool comparison, some have some advantages, some have some disadvantages. For example, when it comes to traceability, this is bidirectional excellence is there, and here also it is excellent, but it is more automated. Bidirectional, when it comes to bidirectional, people say Polarian is not as advantageous as doors. Okay, and agile support, because more and more companies are working towards agile methodology. This Polarian is being preferred in companies where agile methodologies are put into implementation. Okay, and doors, it is already a very matured tool, but Polarian is still under the process of development. Okay, now again, it is more expensive. This is subscription based. It has lower cost. So there are some advantages and disadvantages of both the tools. I request all of you to pause the video and go through this particular table so that you can clearly understand the difference between IBM doors and Siemens Polarian. But remember one thing, when you get a job in OEM or tier 1 company, irrespective of whether you are working on IBM and or doors Polarian, if your system engineering base is solid, mastering these tools is very easy, because as I said, this is only a tool. Both doors and Polarian are tools, and once your system engineering is system engineering, sys1, sys2, sys3, systems engineering background is very strong, systems engineering foundation is very strong, mastering these particular tools becomes very easy. Of course, you must have good knowledge on the ADAS also. For example, if you are working on ADAS or you are working on some avionics or defense, if you must have the thorough knowledge of the subject, then mastering this tool becomes very easy. All right. Now, which one to choose for ADAS? You may get this doubt. Again, well, if your organization is already using doors, it has its own legacy workflows. As I said, doors is a slightly older tool. So many OEMs who are established, they are using doors. But having said that, I personally have seen many OEMs and tier 1 companies like Aptiv or Bosch migrating towards Polarian, because they are migrating towards agile. Okay, and you need to have proven compliance with ISO 26262 when it comes to doors, and when you work with traditional automotive suppliers who also use doors. Now this is more important, because when you as a OEM, when you transfer your requirements to tier 1 supplier, it is important that both tier 1 and you, the OEM, are using the same requirement management tool. So if you are using doors, it will be advantageous if your tier 1 also is using doors. Okay, there is a distinct advantage. It is some, okay, let me explain in a better way. For example, you are developing a model in Pro E, but your vendor is developing models in CATIA. Then there will be some compatibility issues. Of course, there are plenty of tools which can convert from Pro E to CATIA, but there definitely may be some compatibility issues, some configuration issues. So likewise, if you have suppliers who are already using doors, then doors is thoroughly recommended. Now, when is Siemens Polarian recommended? You want a modern cloud-based solution. When you want a modern cloud-based solution where license is easily distributable to various users, then Siemens Polarian is recommended. And your ADAS development includes agile development practices, especially not just the ADAS development. If your whole company is moving towards agile methodology, then this Siemens Polarian is very much preferred. And you also need strong configuration with integration with CI and CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment and simulation tools. Then you require Siemens Polarian. Now again, there's no such thing as a better tool. Both have their own pros and cons. So tomorrow, if you are the decision maker to buy which requirement management tool, you have to take a call based on what are the major tools used by your vendors. If you are tier 1, what are the major tools used by your OEMs. So, and moreover, what are the methodology? Is your company moving towards agile, or is your company still working with waterfall methodology? All these things you have to take into consideration and take a call. So in conclusion, both doors and Polarian are very powerful tools. Both doors and Polarian are powerful tools. It's like asking which car is better, Mercedes or BMW. Both are equally powerful cars, both are equally established to OEMs, and both cars are known for their luxury and for their efficiency. Only subtle difference is there. Likewise, based on your industry, based on your industry requirements, where you have to either choose doors or Polarian. But these two are very important in ADAS development because both are extremely efficient in accumulating or in understanding the requirements management. In managing the requirements of the OEMs of the tier 1, both the tools are equally efficient. Okay, thank you.